Hey, everybody, welcome to a special webinar from the Success Coaching team, ChatGPT in Customer Success. I'm Andrew Marks, co-founder and architect of the Success Coaching training programs. This free learning event is brought to you by Success Coaching, the world leader in customer success professional development training, with nearly 25,000 students from more than 90 countries on our skills development platform. Our programs are available in a variety of formats, from self-paced online learning to virtual instructor-led boot camps. We've got a variety of upcoming boot camps and workshops, including the fall session of our 12-week level 1 and level 2 coaching programs that I deliver in partnership with the University of San Francisco Executive Education Certificate Program. Take advantage of the early registration discount, which ends July 31st. Whether it's self-paced learning, a boot camp, a workshop, or a more gradual weekly coaching program, we've got quality customer-focused programs and formats that will suit the needs of anyone and everyone on your staff. So if you or your team members are looking to upgrade their customer-facing skills, we've got a program for that. I believe Ashley has dropped a link to our program page in the chat, along with any coupons that we're offering right now. And you can find out more about our online learning and instructor-led programs and workshops at successcoaching.co. The schedule for other upcoming events, including our CSM Mastermind, which I believe we've got one next week, and our CS Leadership Roundtable, which just happened yesterday. The next one will be next month. Those series and the follow-on webinars on this particular subject, we're having 2 more after this, can also be found at successcoaching.co. So click on the events tab at the top of the page to find out more. A few housekeeping items before we get started. We will be taking questions later on during the webinar, so please don't be shy and use that Q&A button found at the bottom of your screen to ask your own question or upvote one that's already there. We're also broadcasting on LinkedIn Live, and we've got somebody monitoring that feed. Thank you, Tracy. So if you have questions, please post them and they'll be relayed to us. Also, please keep all commentary to the chat window and questions to the Q&A window. All righty, enough of my preamble. Let's get to it. My guest today is Mickey Powell, co-founder and head of go-to-market at UpdateAI. All right, Mickey.
Thanks for having me, Andrew.
Why don't you take it from here, man?
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm really excited to chat with all of you because I actually come from customer success, and here at UpdateAI, we're building a tool, and we have built a tool for customer success managers. I started in SaaS as a sales rep, became a success manager, leader, and then CS operations at Zora before joining UpdateAI. And just a little bit about UpdateAI, because I really think it's any customer success manager leader on the call. If you're burnout, if you're feeling stressed, feeling overwhelmed, back-to-back meetings, you're trying to take notes, you're trying to focus on your calls, I want you to know that because of ChatGPT, you do not have to feel that anymore. You don't have to take notes. Ashley's going to drop a link in the chat. For the people that sign up today, we are going to give you a completely free trial of our pro plan. And then we do have a free basic plan that you can use in perpetuity. But really, the takeaway here for all of you folks is, if you're still taking notes on meetings, you don't have to do that anymore. And it's getting in the way of so much that you can accomplish for your customers. But that's it. That's enough on that. One other thing.
Just one thing. Sorry to interrupt you. We use UpdateAI, and it really makes that whole process that much easier. We love it.
They do. Andrew's actually, he is not lying. They do use it, though I'm going to have to start charging you soon.
That's fine. Then, it's worth it. It's worth it. It really is.
There you go.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, I did write an ebook on ChatGPT for customer success. You can get it at chatgpt.update.ai. It is free. You can download it instantly. It's going to have all of the content we're talking about here and a lot more. 70 pages. And I will say, ChatGPT didn't write this book. I wrote that book. As much of a pain as it was, because writing's hard. But let's jump in. So using ChatGPT in customer success. So what we're going to cover today is, what is this thing, ChatGPT? We're also going to talk about its potential to elevate your skills and experience, because like you, I'm a big learner. I like to improve. We're going to give you some expert insights on how to craft effective prompts. Then, of course, we've got like practical knowledge. Hey, how do I use this? Where do I use this? And I'm going to demonstrate along the way in ChatGPT ways that you can use this today in customer success. So let's jump right in with a poll. How often do you all use ChatGPT? I'm a daily guy for anybody that cares, but I guess that's not too much of a surprise.
Damn, look at that. Wow, people are really, that's 80% participation. I love that.
Yeah, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, it's awesome. 85%.
Also, I'd be curious how many people we have on LinkedIn Live. If Tracy can drop that number at some point, I would love to know. So I'm going to end the poll so we can keep rolling. We got almost 90% participation. I'll share the results with all of you so you can all see it, but let's keep going. So Andrew, I'm sure you've heard of this Bill Gates guy.
Yeah, we're every once in a while.
Yeah, you guys hang out, grab burgers. Yeah. So this is actually what he said about GPT-4 and the bigger model that OpenAI came out with. And what this really meant to me is Bill Gates thinks that ChatGPT is as important as the personal computer. That's the level at which he's viewing this thing. So when I read that, I was like, okay, like this guy's smarter than me. He thinks it's that important. So what's this all about? So I started digging in, learning as much as possible. And just for the record, like, I'm not a data scientist nor a software engineer. I'm just wildly curious. I love technology. And we started using it in our product at UpdateAI. So I wanted to know all about it. So I'll give you all a quick overview. Really, the first thing you need to know is that it is a large language model developed by OpenAI. Now, there are other large language models out there. For ease of communication, I'm just going to say ChatGPT the whole time, but I am kind of broadly speaking about large language models. And it was trained on over 1 trillion words from the internet, from like Wikipedia to books to papers and all sorts of things. We don't know all the specific details, but that's the important part. Is it's this massive data set. And then it has safety limits. So OpenAI has built-in safety limits. I'm sure you've never seen people be mean on the internet.
Nobody is mean on the internet. Is that tongue in cheek?
Of course it is. OpenAI has spent a lot of time trying to put safety guardrails, just to make sure that racist, dangerous, or any other, hurtful, harmful communication doesn't get in, as well as isn't replicated and being able to be used by users of the product. So how does this thing work? So Stephen Wolfram of Wolfram Research, he's this massive figure in computer science and mathematics, and he put it really simple. It's just adding one word at a time. So all of these little dots, this is what represents human language. And they convert those into numbers, and then they figure out how close are these to each other. And then using machine learning and AI, they trace this route to say, oh, these are the likely words, the likely letters based off of what the user asked of us. And now I'm going to give you all an example. So that whole adding one word at a time thing, humans, we can actually do this already. So Andrew, I want you to fill in the blank for me here.
Jelly.
Jelly. I like peanut butter and jelly. And for folks that are not in the United States, if that's not a common sandwich for you,
Nutella.
That's okay. Nutella maybe, but this sardines. Is a common phrase in the United. Better not be sardines. Gross. So ChatGPT essentially is doing a fancy version of this, and we're used to this, of course, on like Google with autocomplete or on our phones, things like that. But this is a much, much more advanced version of it. And actually, Andrew gave me this idea the other week. It's like, oh, is this just kind of like an advanced Mad Libs? Is that all this thing is? And if you don't know what Mad Libs are, go ask ChatGPT. It's actually a lot of fun. So
it's this not, thing it's on paper. It's this thing we used to do when we were kids with pencils.
There you go.
What a pencil is.
What are pencils? Yeah, what are pencils? Yeah, I actually find that I can't write for a long time. My hand hurts because I'm not used to it.
Yeah.
So of course it's not a fancy Mad Libs, right? It's much more robust than that. There's a ton of innovation that's built into these platforms, but I think there's 3 that you need to know about. And these are the ones that really produce those wow moments, especially for me. The first is that it can understand natural language. So you don't have to say it in a specific way. You don't have to say, hey, Alexa, I want you to do this for me. You can just talk to it as you would to a friend or a peer or somebody you like or don't like, for that matter. And then each time you have a chat session with it, it has memory within that chat session. So this really helps those conversations feel a lot more natural, because imagine how frustrating it would be if you ask somebody a question and then 2 minutes later, they totally forget everything you just asked of them. So by being able to put memory in that chat session, it not only improves like the output, but it also just makes it a more natural conversation that we're used to as humans. And then the last is that it's so good at generating text, guessing what is supposed to come up, that it feels very human-like. It feels like a person on the other end of that conversation. So now we're moving from what we kind of know in like Google and Siri and Alexa to this whole new thing. And I'm going to focus in on memory a little bit for a second, because I really think that this was one of the key innovations that drove this forward. So it only remembers about 3,000 words, and that's a limitation that is going to get better over time. But what that means, just like if you have, 5 back-to-back calls in a day, you start to forget stuff from that first call, right, Andrew? You're like, oh, yep. I don't know what I talked about with them. Yeah. Kind of the same thing happens with ChatGPT. As you're having conversations with it, it'll start to forget roughly 3,000 words back into the conversation, including what it produces. Now, this is going to get better. There's already competitors that are trying to stretch that to 75, 100,000, or potentially even unlimited. But this is still 3,000 words is a lot. For reference, we talk at about 150 words per minute. So there's a lot of text that you can dump in there.
Well, that makes sense. After about 20 minutes of talking to you, I start forgetting what you said. So
there you go. So even with that limit, you can chat back and forth with ChatGPT. And because of that memory, that ability to chat back and forth, you don't have to get it right the first time. So imagine like if you only had one chance, right? If you like baseball or cricket or any sport where you want multiple chances, same thing. You want multiple chances to get the right answer. And that's why the chat with the memory makes this particularly strong. But there are some risks that we got to keep in mind. So they can hallucinate. That's the industry term. I like to call it, maybe making shit up. And if it does make something up, so instead of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, it says peanut butter and mayonnaise sandwiches, because it's just guessing. It's just guessing what is coming up. The problem is it's confidently incorrect. I've definitely dealt with people that are confidently incorrect. Maybe I've had arguments with my significant other where I'm confidently incorrect. I'll plead the fifth on that one. But this is really important because it's not going to necessarily know that it's wrong. So when you are using large language models, you are responsible for both the inputs and the outputs. And if there's legal, safety, or ethical considerations, you cannot verify yourself, you definitely need to consult a professional.
Wasn't there was just recently, actually earlier in June, there was a lawyer who used ChatGPT and ended up citing fake cases because he didn't do his due diligence when it spit it out, and the judge was like, "You're full of it." Yeah, that those cases don't exist.
Yeah, exactly. That was a very public and probably very painful situation, but it is a very good point. He could verify and he didn't. So now we've talked a lot about ChatGPT, but there's these risks. Is this all large language models? What about other companies? Because you probably heard that there's more than just ChatGPT. So there's going to be lots of competition. There's trillions of dollars to be made here. So it's going to be white hot for a really long time. And I'm just going to kind of give you some of the bullets of like the ones that are out there, and really do your own exploration. Don't just take my word for it, but I do use ChatGPT Plus. I pay the $20 a month. This is what I use daily and I really enjoy it. The second is Bing, but you do need to know that Bing is just ChatGPT under the hood. So it's really no different in terms of the quality you're going to get. There's just a little bit of like user experience differences there. Then there's Google Bard. Now, I will go on record saying that I don't think it's as good today, but I will also say that Google has some of the best artificial intelligence minds in the world working for them. Plus, they can spend almost an infinite amount of money on it. So there's a high likelihood that they're going to come out with very, very powerful new tools in the near future. So I would keep an eye on them. And then there's kind of like private competitors. One of them is Anthropic. It has a bunch of ex-OpenAI employees. They just got a $450 million investment round. So they're trying to be another, large language model player. So for, again, the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to say ChatGPT. There's lots of competitors. It's going to continue to get a little bit messy. And I hope in the future I can help you kind of sort through that.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT daily as well. I find it very, very useful. I tried Anthropic yesterday. And
there you go.
Outside of a nicer visual UI, it seemed pretty much the same. It's a little more I don't know. It seemed similar.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to continue to see more divergence, I think, but it's still too early.
Yeah.
But really, the important thing that everybody's asking is like, hey, what's in this for me? I'm in customer success. I need some help here. So I've been in your shoes. I serve customer success managers at our company, and we're all being asked to do more. We're putting out fires. We're taking on new accounts. We're holding back-to-back meetings. We need to write all those emails. We need to create a document. There's just so much. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. So it's no wonder we're all overwhelmed. We're burning out. And I'm really happy to say that I do believe that this is the help that we all have needed for a really long time. So what this graph is showing is that with current large language models, OpenAI plus the University of Pennsylvania in a recent study, they think 15% of all tasks in the US for US workers can be done faster without quality loss. That's just with what we have today. So if no innovation happened on top of them. However, they did add that as we start to incorporate large language models into tools like Bing, like UpdateAI, and many others, we're going to see upwards of 56%. And I don't know about you, Andrew, but like if I could do 56% of my tasks faster with AI, I'm going to go focus on more things that are more fulfilling for me, that are more fun. And I'm going to use that time to spend with my family, to enrich myself and find joy. So this gets me really excited, especially for the customer success realm, because what makes a CSM great is that we're always wearing tons of hats. And this is not a complete list, but problem solving and strategic planning and teaching internally and externally and building processes and so much more. And maybe not always with a smile, but no one can deny that we do so many different things. And that's really important because ChatGPT, it amplifies you. It's a very wide range of talents and skills that it has and you have. And it's going to amplify your abilities, kind of like strapping yourself to a rocket for those that remember Wile E. Coyote from Acme cartoons. That's one way to think about it. It amplifies what you do across the board.
I think it makes you more efficient. I think it makes you more effective. I was reading an article the other day about it. It turns knowledge workers into knowledgeable workers. I love that. Right. Yeah. And it allows you, to your point, it allows you to move away from some of the repetitive, mundane tasks and allows you to focus on the things that are really going to move the needle with your customer. Right. And and whenever you can free up the both the tactical as well as those strategic cycles, so that you can be thinking about how do I help my customer extract more and more value, get a bigger ROI from their investment in whatever we have to offer. You want to jump on that. So I'm a huge fan of this. I look at this as very much an efficiency and effectiveness type of play in any customer facing role.
Yeah, absolutely. So, let's think about that wide range of CSM, but also what it can do. And I'm going to give kind of one specific example of why I think this is such an amazing tool, so effective. So let's say you're taking on a new task, something that you haven't done before. You got to learn how to do it, right? And before ChatGPT, this is kind of roughly what you would have to do. You'd go to Google, you'd try to find somebody else's knowledge. They've done something similar in a similar situation, figure out any obstacles, context, things like that. Then, of course, you got to try to learn it, wrap your own head around it, and then apply it to the task. And obviously, Google's an amazing innovation. Being able to get access to all that information is great, but it takes a lot of time. And if any CSM on this call says they have time to spare, please let me know. I have things you could do for me. So after ChatGPT, we reversed this order. You're actually going to ChatGPT and you're starting with application. You're starting with the doing, not with the learning, because you can tell it, hey, I don't know how to build a process around this. What would a good process look like? And it'll just lay it out. And it may not be perfect, but you actually start by doing as opposed to start by learning. So my theory here is that this is actually faster by actually getting into the task and then tweaking with the help of this amazing tool to get towards that end result. Now, you might be asking, well, if it does it for me, I'm not actually going to learn anything. And I actually disagree based off of the learning pyramid. Now, this is a theory in the adult learning pedagogical space about how active methods of learning are more effective. And Andrea, you at Success Coaching, you guys have a ton of experience. Can you tell me a little bit about the difference in active versus passive?
Well, sure. So, as you know, at Success Coaching, we offer both passive and active learning approaches. We get a ton of positive feedback from individuals and teams on the passive learning approach. Basically, our online content is constantly ranked as top tier in customer-focused training. So we offer a very efficient, a consistent, structured learning to build a foundation for anybody in a customer-focused role. It's definitely available in a passive mode, but we also get rave reviews from those that attend our active learning offerings, including our boot camps and our multi-week coaching programs, where learners are able to interact with each other and people like myself to help them connect the dots between what they're learning on the platform and how to apply it in their world. And they end up, they cite things like improved retention, improved critical thinking, increased motivation from being fully engaged, improved collaborative skills by working through challenges with the instructor and with each other. I mean, overall, the best learning environments usually include a mix of both active and passive learning, and you end up getting the benefit of the passive learning, which provides structure and foundational knowledge, and you combine that with the active learning, engagement, and critical thinking and adaptability. And the one thing that we got to remember is that everybody kind of learns differently. So, what works best is going to vary from person to person. But what I find really nice about ChatGPT is you can use it to fill in some of those gaps, some of those blanks. I actually have an example. Somebody asked about a use case. I have an example of some where you can leverage things like ChatGPT, not to problem solve, but to augment your problem solving efforts.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I'm a very hands-on guy. I've got Legos all over my room. I love to play. I love to tinker. And that's one of the things I really loved about ChatGPT is I feel like I'm participating in sussing out the answer or the end result without having to stop and learn everything first. I can get hands-on. And I think that, being able to, whether it's summarizing learnings or coming up with some sort of document or doing some sort of analysis, just getting hands-on and participating makes it just so much more fun. Yeah. It makes it more enjoyable. I don't know about all of you, when I enjoy something, I learn it more deeply. So by getting an answer, closer to an answer, putting this kind of another way, I kind of feel like ChatGPT is giving you on-the-job training. Obviously you can use it for personal things, and I do all the time. I actually used it to write my will. That's one use case. Saved me $400 with a lawyer. So the other part,
you're giving all your stuff to a sardine. But other than that,
I did verify the output.
Okay. Good.
So you can here's the other thing. Like, I don't get everything the first time it's explained to me. And with ChatGPT, if I don't get it the first time, I could ask it 2, 5, 50, 100 more times to explain something. And Andrew, how many times could you ask your wife something before she tells you to knock it off?
You make the assumption she's actually listening to me. Sometimes I think I come across as one of those adults in a Charlie Brown cartoon. Now, wah, 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 wah.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, there comes a point where she's just like, enough.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a totally fair response. It's nothing against them. If somebody asked me something 50 times, I would lose my patience. ChatGPT has infinite patience. So it's going to keep going until you stop asking. So you will quit before ChatGPT quits. And I think that's really powerful for anybody, students, people on the job, anybody. So now let's get into the nuts and bolts, how to start using this thing. You got all those hats you got to wear. How do we use it? So it all starts with prompting. Prompting, that's just a fancy way of saying telling ChatGPT what to do. And here's kind of the tricky thing about prompts is just like language, it's not a perfect science. It's both science and art. And I'm going to do my best to lay this out for you. But I did want to say the importance of prompts, they are critical because bad prompts, they're going to be really, ChatGPT's response is going to be really generic. This is one of the biggest criticisms against ChatGPT, but I actually think that that's a bad prompt, not necessarily a bad output.
Yeah. And
good prompts, not only are they creative and helpful, they actually kind of inspire the conversation. We've all had great conversations with people, right? Where you're just like, it just keeps going and it's very natural. And like, you feel almost like pulled through. That's how I feel when I have really good interactions back and forth with ChatGPT. So just think in your head, which one's the good prompt, left, right, just your knee-jerk reaction. If you guess left, you are correct. That is the good prompt, but I'm going to show you why. So let's break this thing down. So first, you need to start with a foundation, and there's 4 parts. This is like the mindset you need to go into this with. Number 1 is you need to start with the end in mind. What are you trying to accomplish? Keep that in mind through the entire process because it will help everything. It'll guide everything that you put in there. The second is be specific. Now, when you're talking to ChatGPT, it can get confused if you aren't specific about what you need, the context, the who, what, when, why, where. So make sure you're specific and concise. The third is provide context. This is another big, thing that people say they don't like about it is it's generic. Well, you can give it context. Let it know what is the setting, the who, what, when, why, where of this situation. And that's going to give you accurate, relevant responses. And then the fourth is to be direct. When we're dealing with other people, we usually aren't as direct because we're anticipating their feelings. We're trying to choose our words. You don't have to do that with ChatGPT. Well, not yet. Maybe in the future when it's sentient, you'll have to be nicer to it. But right now, be direct. Cut out all the fluff in your conversation. Just ask it or tell it what you need. So keeping those in mind, here's a basic example. Write an email to an executive so they understand the value of my product. And that product is an automated note taker like UpdateAI. And actually, I put this into ChatGPT. I'll show it to you really quick. You can see that, right, Andrew?
Yeah.
So I put it in there. It's pretty basic. And this is supposed to be to an executive. I think the executive stopped reading probably right around here. Like there is no way an executive is reading this email unless they've demanded it.
You got to net it out. Yeah.
So this is terrible. This is not a good example. So that was the basic example. Let me show you how to perfect prompts. There's 8 components. We're going to break these down one by one, but I'm going to give them all to you up front. The first 4, personas, context, constraints, and structure. The next 4, task, formatting, tone, and iteration. So first, personas. Tell ChatGPT who to be and think about who would be the best person for this task or situation. So if you're a CSM that serves like in the MarTech space and you deal with a lot of VP of marketing, tell ChatGPT to be the VP of marketing. you can put ChatGPT in those shoes. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole theory about why we think this works, but I think it's just really plain and simple. If you want it to take on a persona and a perspective, you can do that. And it's very effective, especially for customer success. The next one is around context. You'll notice this is a guiding principle, and it's one of the prompts. It's one of the components, because context is everything. If you want to increase the accuracy and the relevance of the situation, feed in as much of the who and the what and the where and the when and the why as possible. And you can even give examples. So like when I'm asking for some sort of document, if I know the format I want it in, I'm going to give an example. The third is constraints. So this is the one I actually love to play around with. Remember, it's statistics, it's guessing. But if you tell it, it can't go down a normal path, it will be more creative. It will give you something less likely. And you could play around with this in a lot of different ways, but you want to use constraints to tell it what it should do as well as what it shouldn't do. And this is where you get a lot more creativity. Then we have structure. This is all about frameworks and templates and common approaches to things. I'm sure we've all got a bunch of different things in our back pocket of common approaches, whether it's a to-do list, a grocery list, a budget, or anything else. Tell ChatGPT to utilize those established frameworks to get a better result. One of them that I use a lot in success is success plans. And that's actually something we're going to talk about in a future webinar if you're interested. Then there's the task. Like, you do need to tell it specifically, what are you looking for? And there's a little bit of recency bias. So I actually like to put it, I usually do it 2 times, like one early on and then one at the end of my prompt. Little pro tip for you. And then there's tone. How we speak matters. Use adjectives, use scenarios. It will make it up if you don't tell it. But if you want to be very light and friendly because you're dealing with somebody you have a relationship with, add that in. Or if your company has very specific brand guidelines on tone and style, do that. And then there's formatting. This is really about making it easy to understand, putting the content in something that is digestible and makes sense. So you can do tables or lists or bullet points or headings, subheadings, emojis, and more. Throw that in there, make sure that what you're getting, even though it seems simple, the output makes it a lot easier to follow. And then lastly, iterations. There's going to be back and forth. That is a feature of ChatGPT. So test rapidly on your prompts, on your questions, get to that end result, keeping the end in mind. And at the end of a conversation, you can even ask ChatGPT to evaluate that conversation to help you understand how you got from here to there. So those are the 8.
ChatGPT thinks the number one way for a duck to escape a bank vault is through the ventilation system.
Through the ventilation system.
Yes, that's the number one. I had to ask.
I'm glad
the question there.
I love it. Can use explosives. So when you're thinking about iterations, I kind of think of like curling. You know, they throw it and then you're sweeping furiously to get it towards that end, to get it towards the end of that. So
I'm surprised you think about curling.
Not often. This was one of the only times outside of the Winter
Olympics. No offense to our
Olympics.
Canadian friends.
No offense, please. So let's put it all together, right? We've got these 8 components. Let's see what it produces. And I'm just going to do this live because if it doesn't work, you guys can all say that Mickey's a fraud. And I think that's okay. So I'm going over to ChatGPT. I'm pasting in that prompt. I'll show you again really quick.
That is really hard to read, by the way.
I know. I'm going to zoom in. Don't worry, everybody. I'm going to zoom in.
Yeah.
I've done this before. Your strategic CSM, and I highlighted in blue like these different interchangeable parts to try to give you an idea. So let me zoom in here. I promised you I would. We don't want to upsell products. That's a constraint. We're going to maximize product use. We want to use the pyramid principle. That's from Barbara Minto, who used to work with McKinsey. And it's going to write up this whole thing for me. We're not going to read through all of this, but I want you to just kind of notice, like, it's very well formatted. It's following my instructions. It's taking in the context. you can interchange it with your own company, your own context, your own situation, your success plan documents, your onboarding documents, the handover documents, all of these things. And that's actually the maximum amount it'll let me zoom in. So I apologize. And I'm happy to share all these with everybody, by the way. So do not sweat if you want to take these. So yeah, it keeps working. It's going. I'm going to keep going, let it do its thing. But that's it. Like, the purpose is to show you that it can, with that tweaking, you can get a much better result than that other one that obviously no executive was ever going to read. So that was our little demo. We're going to do a few more, but I'm going to keep going for the sake of time because we're actually getting, we're moving along quick. And I just want to call out, you don't need to over optimize prompts. If you're making the trade-off, like getting into it and working versus optimizing, I say just get into it, start going. You can tweak and get to a better output. But if you ever feel like, that wasn't that good, maybe go back to the 8 components and think, did I not add in enough context or what have you? And I want you to know that you are going to be very good at this very soon. So just start trying if you haven't already. If you can afford the $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus, I do suggest it. And if not, head over to Bing, use creative mode. So integrating ChatGPT into your work, because we all have jobs. We got to, figure out how to save time, be more efficient, more effective. And in the future, AI is going to be built into everything. Maybe it's cars or toilets, phones, who knows? But I actually, to be honest, I don't think you're going to need to memorize and be perfect at prompting in the future, because from what we have seen, it's going to be really built in. It's going to understand the situation that, like in the car, these are the types of things you need. But it is really important to understand it at a foundational level. How do these tools work? What can I expect? If they go off the rails a little bit, how can I bring them back? So let's break down one project, and I'm going to give you a warning. There's going to be a lot of information on this slide. But what I want you to take away is that this is a very widely applicable tool. So let's imagine I'm coming up with a communications tactics webinar. There's a lot of things that I have to do to get that webinar done. And all of these tasks take time. And that's in that right column. It shows you, like, without ChatGPT, with ChatGPT. And it's a ton of work. So here's what I would ask ChatGPT to help me. These are just tiny little snippets. Summarize and cite 5 books on the matter, combined with my own notes, and start to summarize, find common themes and patterns, make it relatable to customer success, give me examples and stories and analogies, then generate the learning objectives. What are people going to take away from this course, from this webinar? Then, using all that, create an outline, make sure it has headings and it's clear in what order. Then I would ask ChatGPT, is there anything I'm missing? And is it easy to learn? Does it make sense? And then come up with 10 quiz questions and an exercise based off of all of this content. Then come up with the slides, the outline, the agenda, the content, and the recap of the lesson. Help me come up with visuals, icons, images for each slide to reinforce those points. And then lastly, help me generate narration. Like, what am I actually going to say as I'm delivering this webinar? That's a ton of stuff. This is a lot. But this is to help you understand there's so much you can do with this tool, and it saves a ton of time. So without ChatGPT, 6, 10, maybe more hours. And with ChatGPT, now this is shrinking down to 2 hours. We're talking about 65%, 3 times faster. So it's massive. So just like you all wear so many hats, so does ChatGPT. So get help with it across all sorts of different tasks. And I'm trying to give you, of course, suggestions. The ebook has a ton, but playing with it, that's where you're going to really get the most out of it. So to wrap up, I'm going to do one additional demo, show you ChatGPT. And the scenario here is when you launch a new feature. We've all been there. Sometimes launches go better than others. And at Update, we actually did just launch a new feature around organizations and collaboration. So I'm going to get ChatGPT's help to do 3 things. Number 1, synthesize that new feature, simplify it, add context. Maybe the product team wrote it in a very technical way. We want to simplify it and we want to make it specific to our customer. Then we're going to have it role play about that information so that you can practice that value proposition, because maybe it's something new that you haven't dealt with before. And then we're going to remove emotion from an email. This is something we've all wrote emotional emails. ChatGPT always keeps it cool. We can lean on it in that regard. So let me grab what I need. And I'm going to open up a new chat again. And I will zoom in, I promise you folks. And I'm going to use ChatGPT 3.5 because it's faster. But I do want you to know that 4 is better. So I'm going to paste in a bunch of stuff here. Let me zoom in for you. Oop, that was not what I wanted to do. So I'm saying, hey, here's the persona, your strategic CSM. Here's the context. You know, I work with customer success leaders and CSMs. And this particular director of CS, he's very focused on enabling his team through learning. And organizations, this new feature, that's a big focus for him. And I want you to synthesize and simplify the details into a digestible format. Don't use technical jargon. Make sure that you're structuring it. You have the introduction and key features and all that good stuff. Give me the formatting elements, maintain a good tone, and then give me 3 use cases. And then I pasted in all of the documentation along this new feature, 6 separate articles. You can see here, it's a lot of text. So I'm going to throw that in there, let it work. I'll zoom in, don't worry. So now it's producing, hey, we have the key features. We got how to use. We have management visibility settings, switching. Here's the benefits. And here's the use cases, knowledge sharing and best practices. Because I told it what that director cares about, it's making sure that that first use case is around knowledge sharing and best practices and collaborative problem solving and onboarding and training. So because I gave it that context, it's tweaking those use cases to be appropriate for that customer. You could go much deeper on this, but that's just, you know, one like top level way. So now let's go one step further. Let's say I want to get better at like positioning this, you know, talking to the value proposition. And I'm going to tell ChatGPT to play both parts, the CSM and the director. And I'm telling it to cite some common resources like Never Split the Difference, the Challenger Sale, to you know, being able to give us the expert tips on how to position value. So, hey, how does this feature work? Can you walk me through it? Sure, let me break it down for you. What about privacy? Here's what we say about privacy. So if you're needing to practice because you're a newer CSM or newer to a company, or there's a new feature, you can just role play in these different scenarios with ChatGPT so that you're then prepared for those conversations that come up. You have a particularly difficult customer or in a particularly difficult space, great, role play it out. You don't have to try to take it all on yourself. Lean on ChatGPT. Now let's pretend that, you know, you go through this whole thing with the customer. You know, you've told them all about the product. You spent 30, 45 minutes on the phone, and then he turns around just a few days later and he writes you an email asking you to re-explain everything. I don't know about you, that would be a little bit frustrated, right? That. So I'm telling ChatGPT to pretend to write a frustrated, emotional email. Confusion during onboarding conversation. To recap, greatly benefit. I hope this recap clarifies. This is a little too emotional, right? We can cut it out. We can kind of tone it down. And I'm using this as an example, not because you all do it, but just to show you that, number one, it can generate a lot of great stuff, but you can also do the opposite. So, hey, rewrite that email. Use professional language, take out any emotion, maintain a light and friendly tone, use bullet points, and keep it under 300 words. This is too long. All right, better. Here's a concise summary. Boom, 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 boom.
And no explanation points.
and no exclamation points. That's right. So that's it for the demo to show you how to go from, we have this new feature, we want to explain it and simplify it for a specific customer and their context and what they care about, which you already know, and you can let ChatGPT know, all the way through role playing and de-emotionalizing. That is definitely not a word, but I'm going to say it anyways.
De-emotionalizing?
De-emotionalizing. Yeah. So,
yeah.
So one last thing before I'm happy to stick around and answer any questions is just a little bit about building that habit. Number one, if you find yourself that there's like an important task, maybe you're even procrastinating on it, or something that's annoying, like, I don't want to do that, give ChatGPT a try. If you are the perfectionist, don't do that. That's the enemy of good. Just get started. You will work towards the end state just by working with it.
My prompt engineering has gotten so much better over the last couple of months.
There you go.
Just playing with it and having it spit something out and saying, that's not really what I was looking for. And I use something simple. I use a notepad, and as I evolve my my prompts for certain things, I just copy and paste it into the notepad.
I love it. And then lastly, just have fun. If you're not having fun with this thing, you're not going to want to use it. But I personally, I do use it a lot for fun stuff, for, business stuff. And yeah, I mean, I lean on it a lot for a lot of different reasons. So to recap, we talked about what ChatGPT is. We talked about how to elevate your own knowledge and skills to get things done. This is this wide tool. You wear many hats. Lean on this thing. And then, of course, how to craft effective prompts. There's 8 components. They're all in the ebook. They're shown here today. Don't over-optimize, but that's really important. And then, of course, practical knowledge on kind of integrating it into your daily routine, your daily work. That's the demos and the advice I just gave you. And then, of course, we demoed some real stuff. How are we going to use this to help us in our jobs and our work? And then lastly, I'm hoping that you've left today inspired by this to continue to dive into the future of AI and customer success. Again, I would love to connect with all of you on LinkedIn. Please feel free to find me there, Mickey Powell. Also, I am doing workshops with individual teams pro bono, not charging for that. So please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to set aside some time to chat with your team and find out is there specific contexts and situations, or if you just want to, shoot the shit. I'm happy to do that as well. We should probably mention we're also collaborating. Mickey and I are also collaborating on an AI for customer success full-blown training program that is going to be released later on this year. We'll have a track for individuals, actually people just using ChatGPT, and we'll also have a track specifically for leaders. All right, how to roll AI out in your organization, ethical considerations, getting buy-in from your peers and things like that. So that will be out sometime in the second half. And why don't we answer? We've tried to type a few answers into this Q&A as we've been going through it, but we've got a couple other questions. So let me go through a few of these. Maybe you can answer them. We've only got about 5-6 minutes left. So let's try and do a little speed Q&A as much as possible. Let's see, Josh, thanks for the question. Josh asks, does Microsoft Copilot fit in the same category as ChatGPT, Bard, et cetera? I would assume Copilot's based on ChatGPT, given it's Microsoft. Yeah. It's ChatGPT under the hood. Yeah. Let's see. We've got so Ator. I hope I pronounced that right. Ator. ChatGPT Plus recently disabled the beta feature of Chat plus Bing. I've tried Bard for its ability to create Google Sheets with the requested data, but
It's very inaccurate with data. What are some better alternatives? Bing Chat seems to be dumber and dumber by the day. Would you recommend subscribing to POE AI instead?
Yeah. So if you needed to be connected to the internet, you could try Bing. It's, I mean, there's a long answer. Perplexity.ai also is using GPT-4 under the hood, and they've tried to connect it to the internet a little bit. But long story short, that problem is going to get solved. But a lot of people are a lot of those companies are still kind of waiting because they want to make sure that they can validate what they're pulling in. So hang tight. That's going to continue to get resolved. We're just too early on.
Sandrine asks, is ChatGPT effective in other languages than English?
I don't speak any other languages, but what I've heard is that it's very effective.
Okay, awesome. Jessica asks, I use UpdateAI for email summaries. Can a product automate the hyperlinks for my company's knowledge base articles for easy emails? Example, topics discussed with supporting document links.
I'd say come chat with me, Jessica. I'd love to learn more.
There you go. All right, awesome, Jessica. Anonymous attendee, do you always have to put in plain text into the prompt, or are you able to insert files? What about images? I have not been able to insert files or images. I've been able to take data from a CSV file and paste it into the field with commas, make it comma delimited and something like that. But I don't know. Is there a solution for that yet?
Yeah, actually, they just released a new feature called Code Interpreter, where you can upload files up to 100 megs. It's predominantly it's best for code, but it can do a lot of different things. And in one of our future webinars, I will definitely go deeper on it, but it is definitely advanced.
And is that something that you can access through the normal ChatGPT?
Got to pay. You got to pay for it.
That's
you got to be on ChatGPT Plus.
Or you got to be on Plus. Okay.
Yeah. It's not a separate charge, but you do have to be on Plus.
Got it.
For the UpdateAI free trial, just head over to update.ai and sign up, and you will get a free trial.
Salvador, thank you. Ariel, is it me, or does ChatGPT not allow you to apply a carriage return in the prompt window?
I actually don't know what that is.
So it doesn't, but if you type your prompt out in like Google Sheet or in Notes and you put carriage returns in your prompt, it handles it just fine. Or if you go and you edit an existing prompt, so if you put a prompt in and it doesn't give you exactly what you want, instead of refining that in the next chat, you can go back. There's a little pencil icon.
Oh,
is that back and you can edit. And when you go in and you edit the prompt that you put in, you can use carriage returns, and it's only after you hit save and regenerate or whatever the call to action is.
Yeah,
save and submit. Will it generate regenerate?
I'm pretty sure. Now that I know what a carriage return is, I just literally I've never heard that
term.
I'm
like, really, carriage return? Come on, dude.
No, you can. Yeah, you can.
You don't know what a carriage return is?
Sorry. If you hit shift return, it does a carriage return.
Oh, it does shift return. Okay.
Yeah. David, security, HIPAA. It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Really, what it boils down to is, do you trust OpenAI to keep their word? Go to OpenAI and look at their data use policies. They're very transparent with them, but do you trust them is the end result.
I would absolutely never put HIPAA compliant data about
safety, legal, ethical concerns.
absolutely not. I would say, unless actually, I wouldn't even touch that with 10-foot pole.
I can rattle off the last couple of answers here. Paid version, you get access to GPT-4, you get priority access, you get access to Code Interpreter, which is new but very, very powerful, amongst other things. So if you can swing it, the $20 is well worth it. David, repository of CS specific prompts. There's a bunch in the ebook, as well as Rod Shirkus. He's a CCO advisor.
I know
consultant.
Rod very well, actually.
He has started collecting a bunch as well. So happy to point you in that direction. For the anonymous recommended image generation, I use Midjourney. It's freaking awesome. It's also amazing because it's a team of 11 people. And it's really, really good and fun.
I have used DALL-E though. Actually, I've used DALL-E to generate some images for some upcoming content, and I was impressed with it as well. And because it's OpenAI, it made it easy. I already have an account.
Yeah. And Bridget, Rod Cherkas, it's spelled Cherkas, I believe. And then Tracy, we have somebody on LinkedIn Live. If you're a technical writer, I haven't been a technical writer, but right now there is like anybody with a technical background, this is a whole new thing. Like we are all learning this while we go. I did not know about ChatGPT 8 months ago. So if you're trying to get in, I would heavily suggest you dive deep into the world of large language models, ChatGPT, understand them deeply, and help people come along this journey, because that's what is needed. Just like, the Oregon Trail or any other pioneering group of people, we need people kind of paving the way and then showing people that it's safe to come along and what the right paths are. So that would be my suggestion for the folks on LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right.
Thank you, everybody. This was great.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Join us at our next event. When is our next event?
It's in like 2 weeks, I think.
Sorry. Siri, for some reason, interpreted what I just said as starting to play music. So there you go. There's
The next event is July 27th.
Boom. Love
July 27th. Oh, that's right. Where you were going to have a different host.
Whoop, whoop.
We have to talk about that. So I'm going to be on a cruise ship in the middle of the Alaska Strait.
Ooh.
All right. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you,
Thanks,
team.
Mickey. Hey,
Thanks, everybody.
let's hop on real quick on Zoom after this. So we'll quit out and I'll send you a link in Slack.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks.